AM 1220 KHTS, your hometown station. Make sure you go to hometownstation.com for all the latest and greatest Santa Clarita has to offer. Speaking of the greatest Santa Clarita has to offer, it's time for the SCV Sheriff's Talk Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Myself, Kyle Jellings, Shirley Miller in studio. And always good to have you, Shirley. Appreciate
It's nice to see you, Kyle. And I keep forgetting to tell you that I love the intro song that you picked out for our new show.
Yes,
Police
Squad.
It just makes me want to start dancing.
Yes, Police Squad or the Naked Gun movies.
I never
That's
saw
what we
that
landed
movie.
on. That's what we landed. Oh, you've never seen it?
No.
You work for a department of policing?
Wait, but I've seen Adam 12, and as I remember, you don't even know what that is.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, I don't know. My dad gets mad at me every time I bring it up. Yeah. We have some deputies and detectives. I almost called you a deputy. I apologize, Dan.
If you're a parent, you're really going to enjoy the show today. Coming up later, we have Deputy Tom Drake. He is one of our school resource deputies, and he's the one in charge of basically making sure that all the schools have their safety emergency plans in place. And then we have Detective Dan Finn of the COBRA team. Do you know what COBRA is?
I should know what COBRA is, but if you can explain it.
Well, they're basically a team at Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station made up of detectives and a sergeant, and they deal with all juvenile-related crime and gang activities, Santa Clarita Station.
So he's probably not very busy, is what you're saying.
No, not at all. But there's been a lot of concern about young people lately in Santa Clarita Valley, and he later on is going to be giving parents some tips, some well-needed info for their sons and daughters.
Awesome. And welcome. By the way, you guys can say hi.
Hello.
Hi. That was Deputy Tom, and that was Detective Dan on AM 1220 KHTS.
They're very well behaved. I told them they couldn't talk until I gave them the keys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good job. You guys doing great taking orders.
Well trained.
Yeah. Okay, so we had some kind of good news in the Santa Clarita Valley, though.
We have had some awesome success stories this last month. We had the Santa Clarita Valley's Most Wanted Suspects that we started that program back up this year, and that's where the Detective Bureau, they select a few suspects that are residing in Santa Clarita Valley. As far as we know, they have outstanding warrants, and the detectives are trying to get these guys into custody. And so middle of January, I want to say it was on January 19th, we blasted out two suspects. One had a $100,000 warrant for a sexual battery, and the other one had a $70,000 warrant for DUI. We put it out there on social media, and we want to thank KHTS and the other local media stations that retweeted our tweets to spread their picture around, and we also put it on Facebook. But to make a long story short, the very next day, on the 20th, one of them, the one with the $70,000 warrant, turned himself in.
And it's not just media people that help with that, but it's community members as well.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I don't want to overlook that important fact, because the public also, when we post it on our Facebook page, they're great about sharing and resharing, and we really appreciate that. That's how we work together with the community jointly to help get these guys off the street.
Yep. And how much does that help you guys as deputies and detectives, the community helping out with these type of things?
The partnership we have in the city is incredible. Many of our arrests come from the tips and the phone calls from the community.
Right. And then the other guy, 5 days later on the 25th, he, the one with the $100,000 warrant for sexual battery, he walked into the front counter at our station and turned himself into our counter deputy. He said, "I think you guys are looking for me."
I think it's you think of when, hey, Santa Clarita is going to, put out a most wanted list kind of a thing. It makes it sound kind of like Wild Westy, like, oh, we're going to post these all over the town, but actually it created a sense of community where people in the community would share it, local media would share it, and help out the deputies, and whoever's patrolling and detectives, and
that's why I like social media so much, because it makes it's so easy to share the information with others. And then one of our other success stories, we put out there middle of January, there was a attempt sexual assault suspect that we were looking for, and put his picture out there. And last Friday night, one of the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station deputies spotted him in Newhall, and we set up a containment and he was captured.
Got him.
Put in custody and booked in on a burglary charge and attempt sexual assault. So another person off the street.
Awesome stuff. We're gonna shift gears. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna kind of shift gears talking about youth and kids in our community as well. So we're gonna take a quick break. This is the SCV Sheriff Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I do feel really good about that bumper music.
Yeah, it just makes you feel happy.
Yeah, it does. This is the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Show on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Just here to inform the public about stuff that is going on in our community and really the processes behind it. And one big thing that happened this week. We have the McGrath Elementary School. You can read this at hometownstation.com, but McGrath Elementary School was taken, well, it was put into lockdown after, quote, unspecified threats were made over social media. And we have...
It was by an 11-year-old student.
Yes, we had an 11-year-old student at the school. And there were other things that happened as well, but with that kid's reputation, and he was suspended last week for bringing a knife to school. Over the weekend, made a threat on Instagram that was not specific. And again, that's all at hometownstation.com.
Right, and I think what we want to ask Deputy Drake today, first, let me tell you, he has a lot of experience. He's been on the department over 30 years, right?
Yes.
That makes you sound old.
That just makes me old.
And you handle all of the school's emergency plans. You work with William S. Hart administration with developing these?
Correct. The 4 districts in our valley, we have a cooperation with them so that there's a plan for every school in case there is an emergency to cover all the emergencies.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So you just to give people your Deputy Tom Drake, the school resource deputy is what you do. For
the Hart School District, there are 6 of us that cover the 14 junior high and high schools in our valley, and we also assist in covering, protecting the 38 elementary schools in our valley.
You've got your hands full. That's a lot of schools to make sure that all their plans are current. But what I want to ask you is, when parents hear the term lockdown, for example, Monday, it was going out on Twitter, McGrath Elementary on lockdown. They immediately start to panic and they want to know how does a lockdown work? Who is the one that decides that there is a lockdown of a school? The school?
Well, there's several phases of a lockdown, and anybody can institute a lockdown if they feel there's a necessity. At that situation, it was what we term as a soft lockdown. Student activity remains normal, but there's extra law enforcement presence, so it gives extra security at the school.
How many levels of lockdown? So there's a soft lockdown and then just a regular lockdown?
And you'd have a standard lockdown, and that would mean all movement's going to be stopped, and there's going to be additional deputies sent to the school site. And then if there's a tactical safety situation at the school, we would go into what's referred to as shelter in place.
And with a soft lockdown, there really isn't need for parents to get too worried or panicked over a situation like that. Most likely, they're just making sure that everything is good.
I know it's tough to say don't worry, but they're actually safer than on a normal day. There wasn't really a threat at the school, so the students were safe. And now you have additional deputies at the school, so it's extra protection.
Right.
Fantastic. And so, and extra protection is an important distinction to make. Because I think when I heard lockdown, I think, oh my gosh, something terrible's happening. We better get there as fast as I can. But really, you don't encourage that.
Correct.
Parents rushing the school to get their kids
no.
right.
But basically, a lockdown, when a parent hears that term, that is their reassurance that the school does have a safety plan in place, a safety protocol in place, and that they're prepared. So if anything, parents should be able to rest feel ease of peace of mind about it. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, Kyle, is speaking of schools, this Friday, actually that's tomorrow. Wow, this week went fast. Captain Johnson will be participating with myself at College of the Canyons. There's going to be a workshop called Social Media in an Emergency, and it's going to be, they've invited a lot of different college representatives and administrators to the school, and we'll be discussing just how we do use social media to communicate with each other in an event of emergency. So it should be a very informative workshop.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One last question I wanted to ask you, Deputy Drake. This is the Santa Clarita Sheriff Show on AM 1220 KHTS. I wanted to ask you, how often do you guys do the training for, or how, and not specific, no specifics on anything, because I don't want anybody to really know about it, but how often are you updating making sure that all the schools are safe and the procedures when there is a lockdown? How often do you guys work on that?
Well, the updates are daily. About 3 years ago, all of the schools in the Valley started practicing lockdown drills so that the students are more accustomed also with the fire drills. So now they understand the purpose of it. And every year, junior highs and high schools will actually do an active lockdown drill, either during a passing period or at lunch, so the students understand that it's important for them to remove themselves from the campus open area and go to a sheltered location and then wait.
Cool. Cool. All right. So that's important. And so you said about 3 years ago they started doing that, just like a fire drill.
All the schools in the Valley, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, we try to take a very proactive approach to the situations. And now let's talk to Detective Finn. Now, Detective Finn, how long have you been a detective on our juvenile unit at the station, COBRA?
I've been working the COBRA team since 2000. So the last
2000.
Going on 16 years.
16 years.
COBRA
okay.
team sounns like the coolest team ever, by the way. No offense to any other teams.
Absolutely.
But COBRA team, yeah, you want to be part of COBRA team, especially those who have played with G.I. Joes.
Exactly.
So I don't know if that played into the naming of said team, but I'm sure it does seem a lot cooler. Sorry.
That was the only reason why they named it.
Okay.
Isn't there like a snake? Is that a real snake in your office up on the?
Yes, it is.
What?
It's a stuffed cobra.
Oh, okay. All right. Sweet. All right. So, but you wanted to talk. You coming in, Detective Finn, to talk about the youth in our valley. Maybe giving some parents some tips on different things that you're. So, what types of things are you seeing?
Or we only have a few minutes for this.
That's true.
Maybe we should wait and block out like a whole half-day session.
Yeah. No kidding.
No, I think I can cover it in a few minutes. Thanks, Shirley. Some of the stuff we want to get out to parents, we have a number of runaway reports that come to my team. My team handles all the juvenile runaways. It's a daily issue that we get reports. One of the things we find is that parents just don't seem to know their kids. We'll ask questions. The reporting deputy will ask questions like, do you have any idea where your kid might be now? And common answers are, well, I think maybe that my daughter's run away and she's with her boyfriend. Well, what's her boyfriend's name? John. John what? I don't know his last name. Where does John go to school? I don't know where he goes to school. Where does John live? I don't know where John lives. Do you have a recent picture? And it seems to be a struggle for parents to, go onto Facebook and try to crop something out. You need to know who your kids are. You need to know who they're dating, who their friends are, who they socialize with, where they frequent. These are just things that I think over the years have kind of subsided from when I was a kid. When I was young and you wanted to go sleep over, my mom or dad always called the parent of the other kid and said, are you doing a sleepover? Now, it just doesn't seem to happen as much. Not that there aren't a large number of parents that are doing the right thing, but there's just, I think parents are more willing to accept what their children are telling them at face value. So you need to know who your kids are. Like I said, know who their friends are, who they're dating. Social media is huge. There are thousands of social media sites. Obviously, everybody thinks, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. There are thousands of Facebook or thousands of social media sites.
Social apps.
I tell parents that you need to know what sites your kids are on. You need to have passwords to your children's sites. You need to be able to log on to their Facebook. You need to be a friend on their Facebook and not locked out. You need to look at the home computers and your child's laptop and your child's smartphone to know what sites they're using. When bad things happen, and unfortunately bad things happen, social media sites are a large source of information for law enforcement. But if we can't access them, if you don't know your child's screen name or passwords to get into that, it's of no use to us. And it can be, like I said, invaluable information available to us on that.
You said you've been doing this since 2000. how much change have you seen and even in the last 16 years?
Social media explosion 16 years ago when he started.
Obviously, social media explosion. 16 years ago, we were dealing with MySpace.
Yeah.
And now, obviously...
What is that? Does anyone use that anymore?
No, I don't think so.
And with all the social media sites, there is a lot of social media crime. And what kids don't seem to understand is that you are not anonymous on any social media site. Law enforcement has the capability of pulling information that has been deleted, erased, stored somewhere else. We have the capability through search warrants with all of these companies to pull that information. So you can create a fake screen name, and you can send threats, and an IP address is going to tell us what computer it's being sent from, regardless of what fake screen name. And you can say, I live in Mississippi. We're going to know that it's coming from 12345 Main Street in the city of Santa Clarita. So we see a lot more activity involving, social media type crime that we didn't years ago. And I think now it's just a fact of life that there are more single parents, there are more dual working parents, so that kids do seem to have more free time on their hand. And with the accessibility of social media, it takes them potentially outside of that safety net of their school or their individual city, or even the city of Santa Clarita in general. It takes them into the valley. It takes them into, other counties with the use of social media.
When should parents, in your opinion, when should parents start having this conversation with their kids?
The minute their child has access to social media, which now is
younger and younger.
Younger and younger.
You go on to grade school campuses, and fourth graders have cell phones, smartphones, and they know how to use them better than any of their parents. So the minute once your child is getting into the access to social media and school events, and the more freedom that you're allowing them to have, you should have this talk with them. And parents have to be parents. We can't. Our job is not to parent your child. Our job is to help you and give you tips to parent your child if you need it. But there are just basics that parents need to do, and it needs to start at a young age.
Yeah, communication is huge. How many families do you think actually sit down and have dinner together at night anymore? It seems like everyone's on the go. And I was reading this article in a magazine that said how important it was just for even a few nights a week if you can actually sit down as a family and talk and have dinner.
It needs to happen more than it should. I mean, you listen, another show we have is Families in Action, and it said, they talk about drug addiction and stuff, and they talk about how important it is to sit down with your family and have dinner, how that can make sure that those conversations are being had and they don't go down this path. But thank you guys for coming in. When is that social media event again, Shirley? That's tomorrow.
Oh, yes, that's just one that Captain Johnson and myself will be participating in tomorrow, as well as the captain of the Community College Bureau, and we also have a deputy from our Sheriff's Information Bureau that will be on the panel. And it's basically just talking about how to use social media in event of a campus emergency.
Awesome stuff. Next show for the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Show will be February 18th.
Oh, and on February 18th, our next show, we're going to be talking about, now February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and we're going to have as guest Linda Davies from
Linda Davies.
Domestic Violence Center, and Lieutenant Brenda Canberra of our Detective Bureau will be on as well. So
awesome
don't
stuff.
miss the show.
Thank you guys for stopping by. Appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you, Kyle.
Deputy Tom Drake from the school resource. He's a school resource deputy, and Detective Dan Finn he's a COBRA detective. Which sound
you like that name?
So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm down with the name. Thank you guys. This has been Shirley Miller. Thank you very much. Kyle Jellings. Appreciate you guys listening. This has been the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Talk Show on AM 1220 KHTS.